May 19, 1845. Two massive Royal Navy ships, HMS Erebus and hmsterror, cut through the waters off Greenhithe, England, pointing their bows toward the freezing Canadian Arctic. They were embarking on a massive, highly publicized undertaking. But what happened next wouldn't just trigger one of the most desperate search efforts in human history. It would entirely rewrite the map of the North. Aboard those two vessels were 129 officers and men, all under the command of Sir John Franklin, a 59-year-old veteran explorer who knew the ice. Their primary objective was straightforward enough: complete the final, unknown section of the Northwest Passage and collect vital magnetic observations along the way. But to do that, they were sailing straight into one of the most unforgiving environments on the planet. Now, you might think of 19th century explorers in flimsy wooden boats just sort of winging it, right? Actually, scratch that. This was not some reckless dash into a blank, icy void. These ships were essentially the spaceships of the Victorian era. Their traditional wooden hulls were deeply reinforced, and their bows were strapped with heavy iron plating. Even crazier for the time, they were fitted with auxiliary steam engines specifically designed to smash through difficult ice, a massive technological leap over wind-powered ships. Down below, they carried provisions meant to last 3 full years, including thousands of these brand-new, state-of-the-art canned meals. It was quite literally one of the most advanced, heavily equipped polar expeditions Britain had ever launched. But all that cutting-edge technology was sailing into an inescapable trap. By July 1845, whaling crews in Baffin Bay saw the Erebus and Terror for the last time. We know they spent their first winter camped at Beechey Island, and then, in the summer of 1846, they navigated south into Victoriastrait. That is where the sea ice closed its grip. Now, Arctic ships fully expected to freeze into the ocean for one winter. That was just part of the job. But the horrific reality for Franklin's men was that the ice in this particular strait simply did not release them the following summer. They remained locked in place through all of 1847, utterly immobilized and completely beyond the reach of any supply routes. For decades, the outside world's entire understanding of what happened to this massive, well-funded expedition hung on one single piece of Admiralty paper. It's known today as the Victory Point Note, and it was left buried in a pile of stones, or a cairn. The first message scrawled on it, dated May 1847, was totally optimistic. It literally reported that the expedition was doing well. But it's what someone wrote around the margins of that exact same paper almost a year later that changes absolutely everything. In a single margin note added on April 25, 1848, the supreme imperial confidence of the British Navy completely collapses. The note reveals a staggering death toll. 9 officers and 15 men were already dead, and that included Commander Franklin himself, who had passed away in June of 1847. Those high-tech, impenetrable ships had become floating tombs, trapped in the ice since September 1846. The surviving crew had abandoned them just 3 days prior to this final note being written. You have to imagine the sheer terror of this moment. The final recorded, organized decision of the 105 starving, exhausted survivors was an act of absolute desperation. Led by Captain Francis Crozier and Captain James Fitzjames, they documented their intention to just walk away from their incredible ships and trek toward the back river on the Canadian mainland. They stepped out onto the freezing ice, and not a single confirmed member of that expedition ever returned. Back in Britain, the silence was deafening. Franklin's wife, Lady Jane Franklin, campaigned relentlessly to find them. She helped finance her own expeditions, the Admiralty offered massive cash rewards, and suddenly, British and American vessels were flooding the Arctic. They never found the living crew. But purely by accident, this frantic rescue mission morphed into one of the largest exploration efforts of the 19th century. In their desperate search, they ended up mapping enormous stretches of the Arctic coastline. The Franklin expeditions ceased to be just a missing ships case. It became this intense national obsession, wrapped up in public arguments and a desperate need to protect the heroic image of the Royal Navy. And here is a truly unexpected twist. The greatest mystery of the Victorian era? It was actually solved in 1854. A Scottish surveyor named Johnrae met Inuit families who vividly described seeing starving white men traveling south years earlier. The Inuit even had physical evidence from the expedition, and they reported grim survival practices, including cannibalism. But Victorian society completely rejected it. Luminaries like Charles Dickens actually wrote aggressive attack pieces targeting the credibility of the Inuit witnesses. Lady Franklin absolutely refused to accept any stain on her husband's command. High society simply chose to ignore the truth because of who was telling it. Decades later, modern archaeological digs confirmed exactly what the Inuit had said, right down to the cut marks on the crew's bones. So what actually killed them? Well, it wasn't one single catastrophic event. It was a deadly, slow-motion chain reaction. You have unusually persistent sea ice holding them hostage. You have men wearing totally inadequate Royal Navy clothing for a prolonged overland trek. Add in scurvy, tuberculosis, profound exhaustion, dwindling food, and the very real possibility of lead poisoning from their supposedly state-of-the-art canned meals and water systems. In a deeply tragic irony, the exact technology meant to keep them alive was steadily poisoning them. The Northwest Passage was eventually navigated between 1903 and 1906, but it wasn't done by a massive steam-powered Royal Navy warship. It was done by Roald Amundsen in a tiny vessel, relying specifically on the survival techniques he learned directly from Inuit communities. Meanwhile, Erebus and Terror remained vanished. For over a century, explorers kept looking exactly where British naval logic dictated the ship should be. It wasn't until 2014 and 2016, by finally combining modern surveys with the very Inuit oral histories that had been completely ignored in the 1850s, that Parks Canada found the Erebus and the Terror. They were remarkably preserved, sitting quietly beneath the freezing water. Britain spent decades, immense fortunes, and incredible technological effort scouring the ice, driven by absolute imperial confidence. Yet, when those two great ships were finally found resting in the dark, they were lying in the exact waters that Inuit testimony had been describing for generations. Why spend lifetimes tearing apart the ice